Welcome back, everybody, to a loss. We haven't said
Hello.
that in so long.
Congrats, boys.
Yeah, congratulations. We know what it feels like to lose again. Um, what a disappointing, frustrating game. I am going to come out the gates right away and say first, thank you. Off topic of the game, thank you guys for all the support on the YouTube lately. We've put out a couple of regular type YouTube videos recently, and they've gotten a ton of love. We just put another one out today about D'Lo talking about the what is it? I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Him saying that the fans were quiet. So check that out if you haven't already. Give it a like.
Yeah, dude.
And then, but anyways, I appreciate it. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to the channel. We do this after every game. If you're watching us on the VOD, make sure you hit that bell because we do this after every game, pretty much now. And honestly, for the rest of the season, you're going to see pretty consistent games. Anyways, back to this game. I'm not mad right now, but during the game, I was furious because the refs took this game over and made this game theirs. This wasn't the Sacramento Kings win. This wasn't the Timberwolves loss. This was, well, I will say it is a little bit of a Timberwolves loss, but a lot of it has to do with momentum crushing calls from the refs that not just in like one stretch of the game, like 5 minutes in the fourth quarter where they're just trying to like compensate for our arguing. No, literally from start to finish, it was atrocious. Timberwolves fans complain about calls all the time, but this was so warranted, and this was the worst of the year. So many blatant calls. That is my initial thought on this game.
Yeah, we were watching three zebras out there, and then also a basketball game. Apparently, like the referees wanted to, show themselves on camera and every step of the way. And I counted probably 100 to 2,000 missed calls and miscues by the refs. And I gotta ask, like, momentum is like such a big part of the storylines of basketball and like how teams kind of groove together and find and build successes within the meta parts of the game. When it's about the refs and not about the game, what does it do to a young team? Like, I'm just kind of curious, like chat, Cameron, do you have any thoughts on that? Does it just like say, fuck it, like we have to kind of just like, swallow our pride and play through it? Or we have to attack the refs? We have to be really, loud after post game and just kind of like yell at the refs, get fined and all that stuff.
I think for this one, I have a lot of thoughts, and this goes back more than just this game, more than this season. I'm talking about players' careers. So somebody that we've given a hard time to most of the year, other than the last couple weeks, is Karl-Anthony Towns.
Right.
Karl-Anthony Towns, even though we've given him a hard time, has always had a bad whistle, both offensively and defensively. Sure, he's got really annoying offensive fouls, but whatever, But I do think what you're saying for young teams and young players in particular, it can completely change their career arc. And I think that is what has happened with Towns at times. I think Towns has been playing great as of late, but he doesn't get calls as much as he should. I mean, should be getting calls at the same level as you see, like, your typical like Trae Youngs, Embiid, Jokic, these players that are getting 10 plus free throws a game, and he's not getting it. And that changes everything about the way you play. So he has to play either way more aggressive, which may lead to offensive fouls, or just uncertainness in actual rules. So, I think, I guess I'm using Towns as this example, but in general, to answer your question, I think nights like tonight are nights that can ruin a team's trajectory throughout the season. I don't think that's going to happen. We've been pretty consistent this year, and I feel pretty good about going forward throughout the rest of the season. And like I said yesterday, I'm not going to be mad if we lose this game because we were 3-1 on this trip. Definitely should have been 3-1 as a minimum, but I do think nights like this concern me, because then the next game you come out and you feel like you have to compensate, but realistically you can't. So
right, like on that subject, getting to the line, Harrison Barnes got to the line 10 times tonight and made all his free throws. Our top free throw getter tonight was a tie between D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards with 4 attempts. You know who got 4 attempts on the Kings? De'Aaron Fox got 5. Sabonis got 3. Jeremy Lamb got 3. Like, I don't know. Like, what we saw out there was like a byproduct of inconsistency from the rest. But like, you gotta have to just shut up and just play through it. And I gotta give the Wolves a ton of credit tonight for just battling through all obstacles. The game was against us from like minute 1. It felt like we were playing despite the refs. Like, we were shooting guns blazing. D'Lo had like an awesome 2.5, 3 quarters, and like Ant had a really awesome first quarter. And despite all the calls going against us, we were playing through it, and it was really kind of commendable to see. Finch was losing it, but we were playing through it. For a young team to just like not fall down and like at the behest of the refs of the calls was kind of a sight to see, and kind of encouraging. Even though we lost, even though we were going for 6 straight, it's like also a testament to saying 6 games in a row, that's freaking hard to do. And it's something that we get to learn from this little series of stretcher bulk of games, how to win. This was a good loss for us to say, hey, let's go back to the drawing board and say a couple things here and there didn't work, and what got us to this point, and why wasn't it working tonight?
I agree, and I think this is going to be a great night for, especially in the fourth quarter, for them to go back and watch film and be like, exactly like you said, right here, this is a huge point. Like, I mean, Sabonis just kept bullying everybody, and given that's somewhat of a personnel thing for us, but they're going to be able to look at exact moments. I think this was a great teachable game. Unfortunately, we didn't win it, but like, we can see exactly where we deteriorated halfway through the fourth quarter, and it just never got better. So I think this will be an easily coachable game. I think Finch will have a lot to go over with people. This won't be like, oh darn, we lost. I mean, like, in some respect, you do have to be like, okay, just move on. But you do want to look at the mistakes of this game, late game, and learn from that, because this was kind of a perfect time to learn. I mean, even though we're in a stretch of games that we should be winning a lot, we are winning a lot of games. I mean, we just won 5 in a row. So losing a game out of 6, 1 game out of 6 games is fine, and it's fine to have a loss. But you just got to respond to it. And, we play a couple good teams coming up here. Like, we play the Bulls on Thursday, or no, Friday we play them. And then I can't remember the next one. It's another decent one, though. I know we play the Hornets coming up, too. So we've got some decent teams coming up, better than the teams that we have been playing. I think one thing we do have to give credit to is the Kings are probably going to be a play-in team. I mean, Sabonis adds a ton to their team right now. And Halliburton, sure, he was an incredible talent and is likely going to be a great player, maybe. But, I mean, maybe, not likely. But right now, having Sabonis is going to be such a huge help to them. Lamb and even Holiday, to some extent, are big players for them to get. Maybe they're not done making moves, but if they kept their team as is right now, I think they have a great chance at making the play-in.
Cool. Yeah, I might disagree with you on that last part, but they look like a team building for mediocrity. They'll need another player, an all-star caliber player, to kind of put them over the hump. Right now, in the play-in series, without getting too much about the
Mhm.
Timberwolves here, let's talk a little briefly about this. You got the Clippers, you got the Lakers, you got the Pelicans, you just got CJ McCollum, and I guess the Blazers are tanking, so the Kings are going to be on their way up. That's four teams. That's not including a team that's going to be falling from the top six, which could be Dallas, could be Utah, and also us,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So we're in the plan right now. I think the Kings may have went a little too early, in my opinion. I think this was the right season to tank, to get something and a value, and then also package it with Fox for something, because I don't know what Fox is for the future of that team. He's fast, he's lightning quick, he gets to those transition buckets are awesome, but they got Davion Mitchell, who's like maybe better in a lot of aspects and has equal speed and is just a better tenacious defender. That's a lot about the Kings though. They look solid. The Sabonis Metu pairing is going to
Mhm.
be really solid for them for years to come, if that's what they choose to like run with, because that's not going to win a championship right there, and that's not going to potentially get you in the play-in. The West is, yeah, maybe worse than it has been, but I think you got the Lakers, the Clippers, and the kind of building Pelicans now with whenever Zion comes back. I think that's a tough feat to like play through, and also, yeah, you got the Wolves to kind of like persevere against.
Mhm.
So maybe I think they shot their shot a little too fast, too soon.
You might be right. Maybe I was overestimating them. I thought they were a little bit closer to the 10 seed. They're 3 games back right now. To be honest, I mean, I'm not like so high on the Pelicans. I know that they've done well recovering from their 1-12 start. But even with McCollum, I just am not a huge believer in that team. Um,
Oh,
but I'm not saying. I mean, they've got a head start now, and they just acquired CJ McCollum, and that's not a negative to their team. So it's certainly going to be good. But I have my doubts. I do think that the Kings do have a chance, but I think their ceiling is going to be the 10 seed. So I agree with all the points that you made about this is too early of a move. You should just tank this season, and maybe done this in the off season, or maybe you couldn't do it in the off season, but just not go for like they're making moves like they're trying to like this is our year kind of a thing, when it's like you can't get above the 10 seed. 10 seeds are absolute highest you can get. But anyways,
transition to the Timberwolves just a
yes.
little bit right there, and then we'll talk all Wolves because that's what you're here for. I hope.
Mm-hmm.
Um, does this game in a fucking, sorry for swearing, in a vacuum, in a little box, make you think, hey, we need someone, we need to make a trade? Because just yesterday we were saying that we're good with the team as is, but yesterday we had a bench that scored 72 points.
Mm-hmm.
Tonight we'll talk about the difference that it didn't produce tonight, and how that had a big swing to this kind of feeling of this game. Does something need to happen to shore up our bench to just put a stamp on this, saying this is not good enough? We need something, new blood, just to reinvigorate, re-energize the squad. Or are we content with what it is? Because we'll have off nights every now and then because we're a young team.
Mm-hmm. I I have been convinced slowly to more of a point that we were talking about last night, where I think I'd rather go with little to no moves still, even after this game. I do still I have, just like I was saying last night, I still have a desire for more of a traditional big rebounding big, because I think if we had a stronger big tonight, that would have been good against the Sabonis, because he was just bullying us down there. He's just literally shoving us out of the way. Even Towns and like all of our players, and that's no knock necessarily on those players, because they're all lighter players. We don't really have strong players. That's not like our forte. So I would really like a player like that. I don't know how we get a player like that. I don't know what players are available. That would be a nice thing for me. And then I think Baby Max night last night was fun, but I still do worry about him being an option for us, like when Pat Bev's down or D'Lo's down. That is still not something I'm comfortable with. And I think that kind of showed tonight. Sure, fun to live it last night, but I think you're going to get a performance like that maybe one in every 5 to 10 games out of him. So maybe not even. So I would say I'm staying put with what I said last night. I'm definitely not like super advocating for any big moves. I mean, I'll always be excited for any amount of movement just because it's fun to me, but if I'm being sensible, I think that backup big, rebounding big, and then maybe some kind of a ball handling point guard or something would be interesting. But how do you feel after tonight?
I think we share the same kind of sentiment.
Hmm.
We don't want to make a big move, but we want to make a move for a big. I think that has to happen. And I don't know who it could be. We want a 15-minute kind of big for sure. But what I saw in this game proved to me that we need someone, because what did I see from all of our bench bigs, all of our bench players, was they're just leaping at every pump fake that Sabonis made, every pump fake that like Metu made, like, and Mitchell, and like all those guys. It's just like, no, you got to stand your ground. You got to be disciplined. And this team is young. This team is playing on instincts most of the time. And they're coachable for sure, but they fall into traps all the time. And we need someone who's a vet, who's sturdy, who's disciplined, who will just be a body in the paint and deter the second unit players from running to the rim, because what we saw tonight was nothing but fast break, turnovers, and transition, as well as almost double the points in the paint from the Kings to us. It was like outstanding. It was like 70 to like 30 something. It was insane.
Yeah, and you kind of expected that going into the game, just because Sabonis has really dominated us, and just like, you're either having Rashawn Holmes back, and although I don't think he played very much, but either way, both of those players just add a ton rebounding for them, and you could kind of expect it, and I think a lot of people probably did in the betting world, but yeah, no. I think this was a tricky matchup for us, given that they obtained the players that they did.
Yeah, like completely retooled their team overnight, and they had a different identity altogether.
Exactly, and it's impossible to scout for that, especially on a back-to-back. And we didn't even know if the trade was going to officially clear until 60 minutes before the game. So it's impossible to guess what's going to happen. So interesting. And Nightbot, I did it right. Yes.
Nightbot shows up.
But it's doing something weird, so
yeah. Before we get into the tier list,
little over under action. Or
yeah, question. I want to get into the over under, but like, yeah, let's just get into the over under.
Let's do it.
Good job, Ashwin.
Yeah, let's talk about the Nets. No, I'm just kidding. But over unders, do you have them pulled up?
Nope.
That's okay. Chat
now
will help us out.
I do. Yeah, tonight we went with a little fun underscoring of Naz Reid, 1.5 threes. He went under with only one.
Yes.
I
mean, not.
Yes, apparently. Carl and Vando under six. Carl and Vando with the line was set to 6.5 offensive rebounds. It went under because they only got 2. Baby Mac / little big man / baby Mac was set to the line of plus 6.5 for like a plus or minus, and he was minus 13. And the Kings, the line was set to 111.5 points. I got to get better at this. Sorry. And they went over with 132. Ouch. What did we do tonight? Like, everything went against us in all of that. And congrats, Gerald, with the repeat dub.
Whoa, back to back.
Yeah.
On back to backs. How about that?
On back to backs, man. Gerald, you're onto something.
All right, Gerald. Well, quick plug for the Discord. That's where we're voting for those things. So it's kind of a fun little contest that we do. Also, speaking of the Discord, if you're new in the chat here, check out the Discord, because that is where all of our tier list grades are, and you can still grade now before we get into it. And we are just about to get in to the tier list, and there it is, the beautiful tier list. All right. Well, so tonight, I guess you have Discord pulled up. As we always do, we're gonna say our grades first, and then we'll go on the Discord, and then we'll kind of figure out the grade after that fully. Tonight we only played, I guess Nathan Knight did play, but we only played 10 players, if I'm seeing this correct. We played 10 players, and realistically only Well, I mean, everybody kind of had a role tonight. It's weird, but um, but yeah, who do you want to start with?
Yeah, we don't have to have all the players. Yeah, you pick because
Yeah, let's
threw me
do
for a loop there.
let's start with Nas Reed, just because he had actual production tonight. So, Nas played 11 minutes, but had 7 points, 4 rebounds, and assist, 2 of 5 shooting, and he was a -9, but didn't have any personal fouls. Interestingly enough, are you ready to grade Nas? I said, are you ready? Sorry.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, C.
See. Yeah. The chat agrees with us with one little outlier with the D. 7 points from our best big in the league off the bench. Maybe, probably not. Only 12 minutes. I wish it was maybe like 7 or 8 minutes. I think Cat played a huge role in tonight's game. I wish there was more Cat. And for the most part, Nas was there to just spell minutes for Cat, and that was exactly what he did. He didn't do anything egregious, but didn't do anything great either.
I agree.
Unlike last night, where he was fucking A tier.
Yeah,
right? So,
he was amazing last night. Yeah, tonight was what I expected of a backup center, or at least Nas is a backup center. We're gonna just move on to the next one. I don't have much else to say about Nas, so we're gonna go on to. Man, we probably don't really need to touch on Torian Prince even. Let's jump straight to J Mac, Baby Mac. He had 4 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 of 4 shooting, and he was a -13 for the team tonight. Didn't have any turnovers still, so that's nice. But are you ready to grade?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, D.
D. Yeah. And the chat was split. It was between a C and a D. I went with the D to break the split, and it's our show, so we can do whatever the fuck we want. Inconsistency. The bipolar play of the bench tonight was led by Jordan McLaughlin. Every point in this game, except for that fourth quarter stint, I wish Jordan McLaughlin was not in the game. I wish D'Lo was there, because I think this game was so predicated on starters, because what got us through last night was the bench. But like the overhaul of the roster, the energy, the vibes from the crowd, the vibes from the team, the all-out, all those factors, the starters need to kind of compensate that, because the bench players didn't bring it. And leading that bench unit is Jordan McLaughlin. So, it's amazing that he had a career night last night or whatever, but you can't follow it up with a stinker. There is a laugh in McLaughlin that's very fitting for tonight.
I wasn't ready for that. Yes, I didn't like this night for him. This is the night that we honestly kind of expect, so I guess I should give him a C. But I do think that this took away from the team tonight. There were moments where I was like, man, get D'Lo back out there, and especially in the fourth quarter. And then when I begged for D'Lo came back and threw the worst pass I think I've ever seen him make. And it was to Towns, and poor Towns was guarded by like 3 people, and he's like, why are you throwing it to me? I did not enjoy this game from McLaughlin. And reason one as to why I am willing to trade a small trade for some kind of a backup point guard. All right, next up, let's do Malik Beasley. So Malik came down from his Hall of Fame performance last night, and he played 19 minutes, scored 6 points. He was 2 of 9 shooting, 1 of 7 from 3, and he was a team low -20. 3, 2, 1. D.
Wancho.
I could be convinced.
Rhymes
probably.
with nacho.
Only reason I say D, no, I mean, this is a pretty bad game. It's Wancho. I mean, this is, and also just to go off of all the previous games, like he's had a couple recent good games. I was talking about last time about like we're coming up on Beasley's time to like shine really. He has had like 2 or 3, maybe even 4 games that have been decent in a row. But this is bad. And you can't have this kind of performance on a back-to-back night where you're shooting on the same rims that you were shooting on the night before, shooting well, and then do this. He had multiple times where he shot 2s. He actually made a 2 tonight, which is rare. But then he had one other shot where he took a 2, and I'm like, just never do this. Like,
yeah, why was that a 2? That should have just been a 3 because you were right there.
Yeah, you're taking a contested 2 when you could have taken a contested 3 that you're better shooting at. So, just frustrating. And I guess this is possible. It could be his last game. I kind of doubt it, but it is certainly possible. This could have been Malik's last game. Just sad that we're giving him a Wancho, but
Oh God.
that is also why it's a Wancho.
Oh man, yesterday we were pouring one out for Layman, and now we're just saying, oh my God, Wancho tier for Beasley, and we might say goodbye to you, Sayonara, sweet dreams. There is a new tier apparently. It's called the Bye Bye tier. Marion Balin with the goat comment right there. Before we move on from Beasley, I want to talk about other comments that have been there. But
Okay.
yeah, Beasley, career night followed up with a stinker. You're kind of a vet on off the bench, and we're relying on you, and you can't shit the bed like this when you were just bawling the past few nights. You were correcting the wrongs, and you were starting to gear into like Timberwolves history, and you followed up with 1 for 7, and that was the very first shot you made, and yeah, I can't believe I saw that from him, because guess who scored almost like triple his points? Davion Mitchell, a rookie, like a guy who is trying to find his keeping in the league, is probably going to be a starter in the league for the Kings. Meanwhile, you're on a better team, and you're dropping shots like you are in the G League. I didn't understand what you were doing out there on the court, and defensively, he's inept. Like, he's only there to shoot buckets, right? Like, he's only there to shoot threes. And when he's really engaged defensively, there's like another level to him. But he wasn't tonight, and I'm pretty disappointed. And I don't want him traded whatsoever. But it's just,
We
I don't
just
know.
want him to produce, because when he can
No.
shoot well, if he can get us that like 10 to 15 points a game with like 3 or 4 threes, that's huge for spacing. That's huge for production in general. And just having that come off the bench, with the bench pieces that we have, when like Prince had an off night tonight, but like with Prince, with Noel, and when D'Lo's out there with the bench, like that's huge, and for him to not produce on a night like tonight hurts tonight, but it has hurt all year, and we have overcome a lot of his struggles this year, but we can't be going in the playoffs with this type of performance from a player that we're paying a ton of money to score at minimum 10 to 15 points a night.
Yeah. Okay. So something that is very unique to this game in particular is that we played them last night in the same building, on a high. They probably were disgusted with themselves, the Kings, and they probably went to the drawing board. They probably had some meeting and an exchange and like a greeting of their new teammates that were starting. Um, you know, Gerald says they covered him a lot better tonight. They got D'd, or he got D'd on hard.
Yeah.
I saw that too. I think that's no excuse. I think you have to find your way to get open. I think you got to find your way to find space within the margins to get open, to have McLaughlin pass to you in every step of the way, because you're the pulse of this bench. Like, if it's not you, it has to be someone else, and we're so reliant on you. It's so I just want to kind of ask you, like, what were your thoughts on how they may have kind of transitioned from last game to this game, a new kind of scheme, and maybe we didn't recover, or we didn't acknowledge it in time.
Yeah, I think both you and Gerald bring up a good point.
Wow.
They did definitely close out to him a lot quicker tonight. But to your point exactly, like, he's got to figure it out. Then don't shoot 1 of 7 from 3. If you're getting defended that well, like, don't force it. Make a pass, because if they're defending you like that, then there's going to be somebody else that is maybe not open, but at least like available. And I just think that there could be a higher IQ play there than dribbling in for a 2, or like dribbling around the 3-point line, just trying to get open, because that's just not what he does. And that's the thing that has driven me crazy all year about him. So I mean, from Beasley's perspective, I think there's things that he could have done differently. From a coaching perspective, honestly, I don't know. I mean, I was kind of expecting tonight to be a big Cat night, to be honest. I thought Cat would be able to dominate. And although I thought Sabonis would also dominate, I thought that this would be a pretty heavy Cat night for shooting. And it didn't really end up being that. And instead, we had some Beasley shots. We had a lot of shots from other players. So,
yeah, well, this was a very top heavy night for our team,
mm-hmm.
and the margins need to be kind of compensated for by the bench players. You know what was really interesting is the highs and lows, the ebbs and flows of Beasley and Noel, and the give and take. And so when Beasley's on, he gets rewarded, he gets more time, he gets starting, he gets the starting spot, and he shits the bed.
Yeah.
And then Noel comes in, and he's playing better, and then he has one bad game and he's out of the rotation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So like Beasley's not going, sub him out, get Noel in there, run something else, run something different. We got to run with the hot hand, find a hot hand, and then run with it. If it's not Beasley, if it's not Noel, bring that starters back in immediately.
Yeah, you're right.
In my opinion, that's what should have happened this game. And they played, maybe 25, 26 minutes apiece last night. Big jump in minutes in production tonight. I think it could have been more because we didn't have anything off the bench.
Yeah, that's true. Because, I mean, we had 20 minutes of Beasley and we had 5 of Jalen Noel.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not saying Noel in those 5 minutes looked like, he hit a 3 in
we
those
didn't even
5
know.
minutes. Yeah. He hit a 3. So, that's as many as Beasley did.
Totally.
So, yeah, you're right. That makes a ton of sense to have Noel in there. And, like, if Beasley's starting to chuck up shots, like, get him out, put Noel in, see what happens. Just you have those weapons. And since they're similar scoring type players, you can kind of interchange them. I don't see the reason as to why. That's a good point that you brought up.
Cool.
Next up. Did we grade? I don't even know. Who are we on right now? We're on Beasley. Yeah, so
there it is.
Beasley. What did the Discord?
The chat. Yeah, the chat was split between Wancho and a D tier. That's pretty funny.
I mean, I said D initially too, but then just thinking about it and looking at it, it's just like.
Godfrey says Wolves haven't won 6 in a row in 18 years.
That's true. Also,
I am so old.
The Jelson fact, they posted this at the end of the Timberwolves game. I couldn't believe it. I don't know if it's 29. I think it's 27 or 28. But it
might
was
as well
like
be 29.
Yeah, I know. Really, what does it matter? But we lead the NBA all time in games where there's a back-to-back and you win the first, lose the second. We've done that like 27, 28, 29 times in a row now. And the next closest team is in like the teens. So we're like doubling up on people. Those two facts are insane. I was kind of hoping that we would win tonight just to get over that 5-game winning streak hump. Just because then, you don't have as many of those like, what is what is the word I'm thinking of? The like where you worry about something in sports. Oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. I don't know.
I didn't listen to you there. What were you saying?
That's okay. It's too much for me to blabber. We're moving on. So, we're on to the starters. And no Pat Bev tonight. We didn't even acknowledge that early on in the show.
Let's talk about that for like 2 seconds.
Yes.
And actually, I want you to say something too. I don't want to just have the floor here. I think it mattered an immense amount because we kind of look like 2 different teams out there when Beverly's out there and when Beverly's not. And like I feel for teams like the Nets. There it is, the Nets again, where they have the starters out there for a game and then they don't have them for home games, and they get an ACL and they have to retool their entire game plan around who's available and whatever. Like Beverly being in and out of the lineup sucks because like our strategy changes, our philosophy and our intensity on the court changes. We don't have a guy who's like holding Cat accountable, holding D'Lo accountable, barking at D'Lo and then making D'Lo a little bit more enforcive. And we have a quiet player in Jaden. We have a quiet, Cat. We have a quiet D'Lo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no one's barking at each other. And so, yeah, it sucked to not have Beverly out there. This was the night to have Beverly. Maybe not last night, actually.
Yeah, and I mean, to go off of some things that were happening in the Discord chat, Twitter, everything, I do think that tonight probably should have been a night where we maybe rested some players. Ant, for one, I mean, obviously he had a decent night tonight, but it just, he said something after the game, like, this is the best I felt in a month and a half or something like that. And that's great, but like, we lost, so what does it really matter? It doesn't really add anything. I'm glad to see him have somewhat of a decent game, meaning scoring more than 5 points. But yeah, I still, this was still kind of a regular Ant game where he has one great quarter and then not much else. So But yeah, no, I think Patrick. I mean, sure, if we could play everybody all the time, I think Patrick Beverly being out there tonight would have been huge. I think we have a much better chance at winning the game. But yeah. So
To the starters.
to the starters. Let's start with Jaden.
Yep.
13 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 5 of 8 shooting, 3 of 6 from 3. Did have 5 personal fouls. I think a couple of those were fouls at the end of the game, though.
Yep.
So 3, 2, 1, B.
Yep.
What'd you say?
B.
Okay.
And you said?
I said B. Yeah.
Nice. I'm glad that we could talk over each other
and
then not know what we said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's a B. I mean, I think this was a great, not great, a good Jaden game. I mean, whenever you can get scoring production out of him, more than 10 points, that's good. He was shooting well tonight. I still don't think I'll ever trust his shooting fully. But it was a good shooting night for him. Decent defending night. It's tricky. I mean, he's not the greatest matchup for a player like Sabonis, but he's always bringing in his defensive effort. I don't think he had any blocks, but he did have a steal. So I think this was a good game. Nothing that I'm gonna write home about, but it was decent.
Yeah. I adore Jaden McDaniels. I think what he did on the court will be underappreciated tonight, but he kind of had a reluctance air to him tonight. He didn't want to take the shots, or he didn't want to set and shoot, and he wasn't as aggressive as I had seen him before. And I think a lot of it was also just the assertiveness that D'Lo had in giving Jaden the ball. So Jaden had this mindset to the ball's coming to him versus him creating the shot for others or himself. I also think that the refs take him out of the game in so many more ways than other players in the NBA. I don't think he fouls half the time he gets called for fouls, and that really just puts a damper on his night. On what his mentality would be in the night. He has to relax a little bit, otherwise he's going to foul out every game. So I really like his intensity on Barnes. However, Barnes blew up tonight. Random dude blowing up for 30 points. I can't believe the Kings are saying, hey, he's basically untradeable, but he proved it tonight. Yeah. Going literally unstoppable tonight from the court, and with 30 points and 10 rebounds, but or 30 and 8 or whatever. But yeah, Jaden, I like him off the bench better than as a starter. I like that he can sub in and out for Vando. I like that when there's two forwards, string guard forward kind of players like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, we could have those two guys butt up against them, but we don't need them for every night. I think it's kind of duplicating efforts with Jaden and Vando out there at the same time. And I think it would have been really nice to not have this in and out kind of cadence with Beverly. But that's not really Jaden's fault, and I think I'm just rambling.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to ramble about Jaden because then I'll start getting negative. So, I just in general, I just have a hard time seeing Jaden's progression and how it's going to end up. I think that he can have good nights, and I'm not saying he's a bad basketball player. I just don't know. I don't know. He obviously he does. But anyways, I don't want to go on about it. But yeah, what did the Discord say?
Yeah, they were split between B and a C, which is maybe kind of where we are falling, low B in kind of hindsight. So
I still think it was a B. So we'll keep him at B tonight. And speaking of similar player types to have on the floor at the same time, Jared Vanderbilt. Jared Vanderbilt had 8 points. He played 34 minutes tonight. Wow. 8 points, 11 rebounds, 3 or 4 shooting, dunking. All of his rebounds were defensive tonight, none offensive. And he was a +7 tonight. I think he led the team in plus minus. Yeah, looks like it. 3, 2, 1, C.
Yeah, cool. Go ahead.
I just think this was the game we expect out of Vanderbilt. Nothing bad about it. But at this point, it's fantastic. This is a C. I'm very excited that this is a C for Vanderbilt because coming into the season, you're coming into last season, he was a total afterthought. He was nothing, and now he is a bona fide strong rebounder for us, effort guy. Although he's not the strongest, he is the hardest worker on the floor out of both teams a lot of nights. So fun to see. I think this is almost a great thing that this is a C for him, just because of how it shows how consistent he's been. But yeah, I wouldn't say this was any more amazing than a regular Vanderbilt game, or any less than a regular Vanderbilt game.
He had a really interesting like shot put kind of basket close to the rim, and he had this unbelievable like Sky Jordan, Rodman like kick out with his legs to get the ball up and under the rim.
That's true. He did have that, yeah.
I didn't believe it when I saw it. Couldn't believe it on replay, and still don't understand it. But we have that in our bag now. Now he's gonna do it 12 times a game, right? That'd
Please,
be awesome. But,
there we go.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about Vando. I think his matchup blew up tonight, and I wish he could recognize some of the offensive rebounding prowess of Sabonis and others and Metu like that, and just like be more disciplined and just box out. I know his strategy is to kind of rush in and snap the rebound rather than like do all the defensive like standards. But I think in this game specifically, yeah, he's not big enough for sure. But just like I wish he would try just to like arms out, like box out with your butt. Mm-hmm. And so then Sabonis doesn't get the rebound, because guess what happens? So much of their production came after the first shot.
And that could lead to more fouls on them, because they're going to have to fight you for boxing out. So maybe Sabonis is fouled out of this game because of that. So all good points. What did the Discord say?
Who was this? Vando? Unanimous. A C.
Okay. Nice. Perfect. All right. Well, we'll move on to, where am I looking? Let's do D'Lo next. So D'Lo had quite a night. D'Lo had 29 points, 10 assists, 4 rebounds, a block, a steal, 10 of 20 shooting, 6 of 13 from 3, 3 personal fouls, 4 turnovers. All right, here we go. And 3, 2, 1, A. Okay.
I was delayed because I was like, what did I actually grade him? I had to check the Discord. It would have been an A for me. I say B because of what happened in that fourth quarter. I think we were on the prefaces, blah, blah, blah. We were on the come up of getting back into this game, if not taking the lead in this game. And then it was D'Lo hours. It was D'Lo taking shot after shot after shot. Like 2 turnovers, 2 entry passes that were terrible. And like Cat was clearly double teamed. He's not triple teamed. And he still made that pass. I think he had a lazy couple of defensive stints in that fourth quarter. And that was like a big part of the game. 0 shots went in the fourth quarter after he was a stud in the first half for sure. How amazing did it feel to start this game? Like, we were hot. It was all D'Lo. It was D'Lo just like bringing up the ball, feeding to everyone, perfect passes. His shot was crisp. Like, man, when we see this, it's like, yeah, that's why we have him. And like, I want no other player on our team than D'Lo long term. He can play like this till he's like 50, honestly, because he has no lift in his jump, right? But that fourth quarter brings me down to a B, and I'm sorry if I talked a little too long there.
No, the only thing I can think of to counter that, counter with my A, is I just don't think that this game is even close without D'Lo. I think the scoring that he did in the first 3 quarters was crucial to keeping us in the game. I mean, there was that stretch where he hit like 3 threes in a row or something like that, or I don't know, 3 shots in a row that kept us in when nobody else was making buckets. It was kind of that typical. And, I'll be completely honest, because I know Godfrey's in the chat destroying him right now. But, I do kind of have this thought about D'Lo that kind of creeps in and out of my mind, because when we have D'Lo on the court, it looks great, and it feels like it feels right when D'Lo's on the court and he's dishing and scoring and like we're like winning, it feels right. But then we had a couple games without D'Lo when he was hurt recently, and we still looked pretty okay, but like when D'Lo comes off the court, when he's playing with us, it looks atrocious. But on his nights off, where he's not even playing, we seem to hold it together a little bit better. And I don't know. I like in my brain right now, I don't know if that is a D'Lo thing. Like, oh, D'Lo is kind of like this double-edged, like, you know, just like a catch-22 kind of an issue where it's like, oh, you can't win without him, but you also can't win with him. I don't know. Like, it's like this weird situation. Tonight it felt like at times we weren't going to win the game without D'Lo, but is that because D'Lo is taking it over and making it his game? I don't know. So the only reason I say A is just because, I mean, the dimes tonight were great. The scoring obviously was fantastic, and it felt like at times much needed, so that the Kings and their very enthusiastic crowd tonight were ready to kind of rip and roar from the third quarter. And I starting that third quarter, I was like, man, you know, we could lose this game. Like, this is a very losable game. We kind of said that before the game anyways. But yeah, that would be my only counter. I'm sure that the Discord has said less. But
yeah.
Yeah.
No, they're actually more in agreement with you than they are with me. It's majority is in A tier for D'Lo. So I'm going to bring that down to earth here. He was a plus 16 coming into the fourth quarter. He had 29 points in the first three quarters, 9 assists, and then an absolute 0 in the fourth quarter. What we needed was a leader. What we needed is the guy who we had in the first three quarters, and we didn't get that. He was a team high negative 16 in the fourth quarter, and my mouse is crapping out right now. But 0 points. And our leader from the quarter was Towns with 7. No one even came close to that. That is like the worst quarter that I've seen from a Timberwolves team that gave so much care and effort and love and heart into the game for 3 quarters. They were absolutely out of their league in that fourth quarter. They looked gassed. They looked out of their element. They looked like a dude like Sabonis would just take over this team and take over this game, and did. And yeah, I was disappointed in what I saw from D'Lo in that fourth quarter from what I just adore from the first 3 quarters. So like, it was very consistent, and that's why I'm still talking about it. But an A to a B, in my opinion, no contest.
I would say, Godfrey brings up a great point of saying, we're up by 1. Given when we were up by 1, it felt bad, because we had McLaughlin in there. We were all begging, maybe not you, Godfrey, but we were all begging to have D'Lo come back into the game, because we're like, oh my gosh, we need some stability. And we immediately they get outscored 18-4, like you said, and also turnover immediately when he gets into the game. A terrible, atrocious turnover. Not just like, oh, the Kings made a good play. Like, he throws it into 3 defenders. At like an awkward time. Towns was just starting to cut. It was like weird. Terrible play. But yeah, it's tricky because I do think that is pretty glaring, actually. So you said that the Discord said primarily A, though?
Yep.
I'm surprised. I thought the Discord was going to be lower, but man,
you can make that final call. It's just yeah. I also got to say, last night D'Lo played pretty well, but it wasn't like a D'Lo game to remember or anything that was special except for his passing. And he was just kind of orchestrating the game plan, but not necessarily taking the game over.
Yeah.
Tonight, it felt like he was really trying to take the game over. And that's cool and all that you get that. But like, it's not something that we've been kind of accustomed to see on our squad. We've seen it on other teams that he just takes games over. But on our squad, it's more of like a holistic effort. It's like getting everyone else involved, and he being the third fiddle, if not the fourth option sometimes on offense. It was strange to see. It was awesome to watch him make those threes, but that was all in the third quarter, man. He had like 16 points in the third quarter. It was crazy. And that was cool. That was like our best quarter of the game. And despite all the crap that was happening out like peripheral around the game, but no one else got involved or like kind of uplifted as a result. Like everyone, like what really drives this team, the Timberwolves basketball, is when everyone shares the ball, when everyone gets involved. And we didn't have a Beasley, we didn't have a Noel, we didn't have anyone else scoring outside of like 2 players on our team, right? So I think part of D'Lo's repertoire has to be knowing when to take over the game, but not taking it over to the point where no one else gets involved.
Yeah, and I think that's I think that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier, but stumbling through.
That's all
Um,
right.
but uh, but yeah, no, I do think that is something that's kind of creeped in my brain a little bit more recently about D'Lo. I put him in B tonight just because you're right. I mean, one, we didn't win the game, and two, a lot of that has to do with how he came in that fourth quarter and just kind of did nothing for us. And if he is going to be that player that is going to take over for us, he has to take over in those last 5 minutes that he comes in, and win the game for us. So didn't happen. Anyways, B for D'Lo tonight. Next up, let's do Anthony Edwards. So Anthony Edwards actually played the most minutes tonight, but 26 points, only 1 rebound and 1 assist. Was 10 of 25 shooting, 3 of 9 from 3. Did have 4 personal fouls and scored like 14 or more in the first quarter. Are you ready?
Yeah, I am.
3, 2, 1. B.
B.
I'm kind of teetering between B and C. Obviously, this was an exciting game to start from him,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm just giving him this B because it feels like we haven't seen a game from him where he scored more than 10 points, 5 points. So it feels good to see the ball go in for him, even just simple layups, which is maybe something that does not mean that I should be giving him a B, but I do think that he had that crazy scoring in the first. Defensively, I think he started off strong. I stopped paying attention to his defense, to be honest with you, like second half, so I don't know how that went. But I honestly might be tempted to come down to a C, just because this, even though the scoring, like 26 points, is great, overall impact on winning scoring was probably not that high.
Yeah, so the first quarter was epic. It was like a tale of two halves for me. I thought he played really within himself in the first quarter, in the first half, and took spots where he needed to take over and looked like Towns was as engaged as we wanted him to be. And D'Lo was between D'Lo and Ant, they were making all the shots. They were taking all the bulk of the shots. There was a little bit of discontinuity. There was a little bit of rhythm disconnect between the two of them. They weren't like crisply passing back and forth to each other. There was a lot of ISO crap. I don't like, and I think this Timberwolves basketball mantra has been like getting everyone involved and getting the ball moving. So then the energy finds itself with the best player to take the best shot. It's like I saw that in the first half. I didn't see it as much in the fourth quarter at all in the fourth quarter. And a lot of that had to do with kind of just Ant taking over and kind of running with the energy of that, which was cool to see. However, I'm kind of eating my words because the second half, he felt like a different player. He felt like a guy who was just sitting there. He played all of the first quarter. Like a guy with like unstable knees apparently is playing the full first quarter.
12
and
minutes,
that,
yeah.
yeah. And I saw him in the second quarter stint, and he looked a little reluctant. Like he looked a little hesitant, and then he stopped driving, and he had to take a whole half off. And then the fourth quarter, he started driving again. It's like, man, this team will rise to top tier contention with Ant driving to the rim on a consistent basis. And when I see it for a quarter and a half, alarm bells ring. And so I don't want to convince you otherwise. I think it was a better game than we've seen from a long time, for like not a long time, but it's like a week or two stint. But like we even had a D in chat, in the chat. So like the game, I think, didn't produce, as you said. I think that was such a great point. It didn't really produce a winning style, but he found his shot, and maybe long term, that's good enough for us.
Yeah, if this is what he needs to get back in the rhythm of at least not like, sure, if we're gonna win games where he's scoring 5 points, score 5 points every game. But I do think, like you were just saying, if Ant starts to be the player that we know he can be, we will ascend to 5 seed, 4 seed territory, maybe even higher. Because if we have those three at the top with a bench that has been performing, other than tonight, as well as they have been recently, that's a team that you don't want to face. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with the C tonight. So you said one person said D. What was everybody else in the Discord?
Split between B and D. So B, C, and D. Yep.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're last up. We've got Towns. So Towns played 34 minutes. I don't know why I'm saying their minutes tonight. 21
Fine.
points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, 9 of 17 shooting, 3 personals, and 3 turnovers. Are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1, B.
B. Yeah. Um, the chat is mixed. There's a D, there's a couple C's, there's a couple
What?
B's, with the majority being a B. Yeah. Without Cat in the fourth quarter, we were nothing. We probably would have had single digits in that fourth quarter. In that respect, I wish he took like triple the amount of shots he took in the fourth quarter. I wish he brought the ball up even. Like I wanted someone to take over that game and find some sort of spark. And no one tried. No one forced the issue. No one changed their mindset, and that includes Towns. They were just playing within whatever they were trying to do, and they fought for three quarters. And yeah, maybe it got to him a little bit. The refs, the faulty calls, the potential missed shots near the rim, it just got to him. His passing was pretty on point tonight. There was some really great ideas that he was doing and kind of improvising on the court there, and it led to really awesome like production. But why it's a B and not an A? Why some people are thinking it's a C? Well, we lost. It's an all-star performance by Cat, but it didn't produce a win. So what was all this for? So like some of that was like that. And yeah, he took that 1-3 that was awesome, but you're going to the 3-point contest and you took 4 threes. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Like someone shot 13 threes tonight,
Yeah.
like let's double that up. Like we want to hear from you, Cat. Isn't winning fun? Isn't winning exciting more than once a season? Right?
Yeah.
Like we're going for 6 straight. We need our players to play. We had the energy from our bench to compensate for you last night. Tonight felt like another story, a different story, a story that was written by Towns, and I didn't like see that response from him.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about Towns is that over the last stretch of games, I've just really appreciated his game
Totally.
way more. And it's not me changing my mind on him; it's him changing the way he's playing. I think he's playing smarter. He had a behind the back pass tonight, which was funny, but it contributed to an assist. It was an actual make, but and like obviously there's always going to be a little nitpicky things, but yeah, I thought this was an overall good game. This is better than I expect, probably. I mean, like I expect I guess I'm gonna phrase it in a different way. So I have seen Towns out there recently, and in the beginning of the season, I was kind of convinced that it was Ant's team eventually, and I still think that is true. But I've seen Towns out there with Ant in those like pick and roll scenarios that are kind of awkward and clunky, where Cat is trying to be kind of like a mentor, and I know that sounds weird, but like
Yeah, no, I see it.
yeah, like he's kind of making the play, and he's kind of sacrificing himself to help Ant. And it's something I didn't see early on this season because I think he was being selfish early on in the season, and recently I just see him being a little bit more contributing to Ant's development in a way that I didn't really expect at all, and then also contributing in his own ways. I do wish that there would have been a few more shots maybe from tonight. I mean, 17's quite a few, and he shot 9 of 17, so he shot well. But I really did expect this to be quite a big game for him. I did expect quite a few threes as well to kind of change up the defense, get some of his defenders out to that 3-point line, so there could be a little bit more room for like scoring, driving Ant or driving Jaden, I guess, to get there. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, recently I've been pleasantly surprised with Towns. Sure, I mean, you could argue that this is something that we would expect out of him, and maybe that is a fair thing to say. But I do think that he's been doing everything. I mean, he's been getting a lot of assists over the last like 5 or 6 games. He's been getting a decent amount of rebounds. But again, that's different night to night. Scoring, whatever, stats, whatever. That doesn't matter. I just think his play out there, to me, through the eye test, has been way better lately. So although yeah, it's not like an A tier, it's definitely not A1. We lost tonight too, so that's another argument for a C, I guess, but I feel pretty good about giving him a B.
Cool. I think the more and more you were talking, the more and more I wanted to like even bring his grade down from a B to a C. I think the way that Sabonis plays, as a contrary to how Towns wants to maybe play, or contrast rather, is Sabonis is enforcive and is like within a second he knows where where the ball's going, or within a half a second within the ball where he catches it he knows exactly where it's going. Towns has to have to play kind of develop, and he has to have some sort of creative reason to pass or get the double or triple, and they were playing him a different way than they did last night for sure, almost like kind of bodying him and kind of denying the entry pass and things like that. It was interesting to see how he was working around it. However, he took 3 shots in the first half and he had 0 rebounds.
Yeah, that's true.
I find that repulsive. Beasley took 5 shots and had no rebounds. You know what I mean? Like the Towns, all-star Towns. You played really well in that second half, at least in that third quarter, which was probably our best quarter or best part of the game, I think. But man, I just think a tale of two halves again, but it shouldn't be that way for Towns. It shouldn't be like pick your spots, because that's usually like a guard's mentality. That's usually the leader, kind of like the shot creator and the playmakers like role. It's not on you. It's whenever you get the ball, it should be for you to shoot and score. You are a unicorn for a reason. Don't take a half off.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, to be completely honest, I did forget that he ended the first quarter or half or whatever with only 3 shots or whatever it was.
And 3 fouls too. Like, really took him himself out of his own game, in my opinion.
Yeah, true. Okay, maybe I'm changing my mind. What did Discord say?
They were split. There was a D. There were a couple C's. There were a couple B's, but the majority being a B. I think you might know who the D was, and
I definitely do.
Yeah. So, and I think there's some merit to that, or there's a lot of merit to that. So, we'll say this: we had a cluster of games that we could all win, and we went 3-1 in a season where there's a lot of mixed opinions about what this roster is, and we're still finding our way through the season kind of above 500, floating above water, and trying to find ourselves within within a mini series here, within a couple games that are maybe unfavorable for us because it's the end of a back-to-back and all that stuff in a weird like situation. We have a game like on Sunday that's at like 1:30 p.m. or like 2:00 p.m. last Sunday. It's like a big volatile season, shift where we have, afternoon games, evening games, late night games. It's like all over the place. And, sometimes you have to, stick with it, but like sometimes it like throws everyone's rhythm off, So, but for the vet of our team, the leader of our team, I feel like the energy that he had in that post game, I want to see on the court. I want to see that like life on the court, and he looked lifeless in that first half.
Yeah, true. He did have that one really nice assist to Ant, I think, in the first quarter.
But, that was great.
Yeah. But yeah, that's all I can really remember from his first half, really. But yeah, no, I think overall, so the last little road stretch, we're not even done with it, but the last little stretch that we had of the 4 really, really easy games, or easy-ish games, 3-1 was my bare minimum that I wanted. We got it, so I guess I shouldn't be too mad, and I'm not. I mean, we're 29-26, so that's not a bad grade. I'll take that. We do go up against, like you said, some a little bit tougher opponents, so I'm glad that we had a little bit of a wake up call tonight, to maybe wake ourselves up for the next opponents. We play the Bulls on Friday at the Bulls. And then we play the Pacers, which that could be a weird one. I'm not sure. One. Yeah, because again,
I don't even know who's on the team.
I mean, Halliburton, but exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Who knows? They might not have Turner. They might not. I mean, Brogdon's been hurt, so it's a weird team. But unfortunately, these teams, and this is another thing about tonight. Teams that typically get these kind of players on like their first game, the crowd's hyped, the team is hyped. They have nothing to lose, so there's no judgment for losing because anything could go wrong and everybody's just going to be like, oh yeah, you're new. And to throw back to the Wolves, I mean, when we first got Wancho and Beasley, we went off on the Clippers and it was like a crazy game. So either way, yeah. So we go up. That's our 2 road games. Then we have back-to-back Tuesday, Wednesday games again next week at home though. I will be going to those games. I'm excited to go, especially to that LaMelo Ball one. And I'm hoping that the Timberwolves show up. I'm hoping that Ant shows up. But I could say that about any game. So I guess maybe another quick little look into the future. So before we have 4 games left before the All-Star break, and I said them all: Bulls, Pacers, Hornets, Raptors. What would be what is your bare minimum for a record for the Wolves over the next 4 games?
500. I think there's 2 teams that we can clearly beat.
Hmm.
There's 2 teams that are going to be kind of like a test for us to see if we can kind of persevere and fight through potential adversity. And maybe a team that might be even better than us. Can we take down like near the top tier East team? So very interested in seeing this because the East has looked better than the West this year. And how do we fare against them? So it's a lot of Eastern teams. Let's see what happens.
I would say 2-2 would be my bare minimum for happiness, for sanity, I should say. 3-1 I would be happy with 3-1, obviously. And if we could somehow sweep it, all 4 games going into the All-Star game, super high vibes going into the All-Star game break.
That'd be cool.
That would be amazing. So, but yeah, so tomorrow is the trade deadline. We're not going to talk about it anymore. We're basically done with the show. But tomorrow is the trade deadline. If the Wolves don't make any moves before the trade deadline, like well before the trade deadline, like morning or tonight or something like that, I think I might do a quick. It will just be me, but I'm gonna do maybe a quick stream around the deadline, which is 2 Central tomorrow. So maybe like the 30 minutes leading up, because we typically get a nice flurry of picks or trades that go through at that time. So that'd be kind of fun to like be here and watch Twitter and see what's going on. So that we'll try to do that if the Wolves don't do. But if the Wolves do a move before then, I wouldn't really expect them to be. I'm not expecting the Wolves to be doing like tons of moves at the deadline, even though I've heard rumors that is going to happen. I really don't think that's going to happen. So if we do a move before, then significantly before, no show. But as always, I'll keep you updated on Twitter. But yeah, it's late. I think all of you have gone to bed. So
yeah.
And that is fair. This is very late
very
for us
fair.
Central people. So we don't have any more late games for a while. I think all of our next upcoming games are 7, 7, 7, and then there's a 1 p.m. game on Sunday, I think. So dumb. But we will be back. I will be back maybe tomorrow, and then we'll maybe be back, both of us, on Friday. We haven't talked about it, so we'll figure it out. But you're not available.
I might be available.
You might be available. Either way, 52 wins. That's the tradition. Thank you, Gerald. And my sign to shut up and end the show. So let's
go to bed.
That is all from us. I am gonna go to bed. Maybe see you tomorrow. Intro as the outro. We'll see you in the Discord. See ya.
Boom. Catchphrase.